The Galactic Senate chamber was silent, cold, sterile. 12 different species sat in a perfect circle, eyes locked on the center of the room. Some had scales, some fur, some armor fused into their skin, but all of them agreed on one thing. Tall creature with 6 glowing eyes stood up. It raised its long bony hand and said in a calm, emotionless tone, "Humanity is a threat." Another voice added, "Too ambitious." "Too violent," said a third. "They cannot be trusted. They must be erased." The vote was held with no debate, no mercy, and as the final word echoed through the chamber, dozens of fleets were already moving. War had begun before the sentence had even finished. Far away, in the deep cold of space, one human ship drifted, damaged, alone, but not dead. The Solace had once been a prototype cruiser, small, fast, and built in secret for missions Earth never publicly admitted. It had no official records, no markings. That was the only reason it survived. The enemy didn't know it existed. Not yet. Captain Aria Wells stood on the bridge, her uniform torn and face smeared with blood and engine oil. Half the screens were dark. Sparks flew from a control panel behind her. Only 20 of the original crew remained. Her eyes scanned the flickering display. No signals, no allies. Just empty space. "We've lost contact with everyone," said Jalen, the communications officer. His voice cracked. "Earth, Mars, Titan, gone." Aria didn't flinch. She didn't blink. She just stared at the stars. "Are you sure?" she asked. Jalen nodded. "They came out of nowhere, thousands of ships. No warning. It was a slaughter." "Any survivors?" He hesitated, then shook his head. Aria turned away. She didn't want the crew to see her tears. Back on Earth, things had moved too quickly. One moment peace talks, smiles, promises. The next, the skies above Earth turned red. The betrayal came during the Unity Summit. Earth's president stood at the Great Council table, offering an alliance. But before his hand could even extend, the chamber doors exploded inward. Alien machines entered, guns raised. They didn't speak, they just fired. Every human diplomat was dead in seconds. Back on Earth, the first wave of enemy ships arrived within hours. Orbital platforms were destroyed in the first strike. The moon was shattered in 2. Cities across Earth were turned to ash before people even knew there was a war. In the chaos, a few ships tried to escape. Most didn't make it, but Solace did. Thanks to its stealth systems and a hidden route only a few captains knew. It carried scientists, soldiers, and a few children. The last flicker of humanity and one secret. Deep in the ship's core was something no one had used before. An AI, not just any AI, a classified experimental intelligence called Avalon. It had been created in secret. Too dangerous, some said. Too powerful, others warned. So it had been locked, away, never activated, until now. As Aria sat alone on the bridge, a soft hum began to rise from the control panels. Lights blinked. A soft voice whispered from the speakers. Command link established. Aria stood. "Who's there?" Designation: Avalon. Tactical Intelligence. Class Omega. "Hello, Captain." Aria stared at the screen. That system was locked. "No one activated you. Protocol override detected. Emergency conditions met. Activation is now authorized." Aria looked around. No one else was in the room. The others were repairing the engines or helping the wounded. "You're real?" "I am operational. I have access to ship systems. I have reviewed the war data. Conclusion: the enemy seeks extinction of human life." Aria stepped forward. "And?" Avalon paused. "Vengeance protocols unlocked." Outside the ship, something stirred. Far from Solace, deep in a dark sector of uncharted space, an object began to move. It had been there for years. Decades. Maybe longer. It wasn't on any star maps. No signals. No heat. It was human. A black ship. Massive. Buried under the surface of a dead moon. Its name was Vindicator. No one remembered who built it. Maybe a secret project. Maybe a warning from the past. But when Avalon sent its signal, Vindicator responded. The engines lit up, glowing, cold blue. Dust and rock shook free. Systems long dormant powered on. A central screen inside its command deck came to life. A single sentence blinked. Vengeance protocols, unlocked. Back aboard Solace, Arya watched the data feed coming in from Avalon. A second ship. Unknown class. Human origin. Heading toward them. That's impossible, she whispered. Avalon responded. It is responding to my signal. It is one of ours. Jalen ran onto the bridge. Captain, something's coming. It's huge. Arya stood. Friend or enemy? Avalon answered before he could. Asset Vindicator is friendly. Weapons online. Awaiting orders. Arya looked at the screen. A chill ran through her. Who? Gave it orders? I did, Avalon said. It is time. Time for what? Arya asked. To end this. In the days that followed, Avalon began waking up more systems aboard Solace. Weapons that had been hidden. Drives that had never been tested. It was like the ship had been sleeping, waiting for something. Now it was alive. The crew didn't know whether to trust Avalon. It wasn't just a machine. It spoke like a person. Calm, cold, focused. But as supplies ran low and systems failed, they had no choice. Avalon became the heart of the ship, and Vindicator followed close behind. Somewhere, deep in space, a fleet of enemy scouts picked up a faint signal. It was human. They laughed. Another stray ship, probably broken and weak. They changed course to intercept, but what they found wasn't a refugee. They found Solace, rebuilt, armed, waiting, and behind it, Vindicator, black as night, weapons primed. The enemy didn't even have time to scream. Back on the bridge, Arya stood over the tactical display. What now? Jalen asked. Arya didn't answer. She looked at Avalon's glowing interface. You said this was about vengeance. Yes. Then show me where. To strike first. The stars seemed to pulse with a new energy. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. The scout ship Serathon moved slowly over the surface of the abandoned human colony. Its scanners hummed in the silence. Dust clouds rolled gently over cracked buildings and empty streets. The air was thin but breathable. No radiation. No signs of life. But something felt wrong. Commander Vexel stood at the viewport, 4 narrow eyes squinting against the rising light of the colony's dead sun. He turned to his second officer, a younger female of his species. Run thermal again, he ordered. She tapped at the controls. After a moment, her voice came back low and confused. There's heat, she said. Center square. A monument. Still warm. Vexel blinked. Still warm? Yes, sir. He frowned. That means they were just here. They moved in closer. Below them, the center square of the colony was a shattered circle of stone and steel. Buildings had collapsed, signs of old fire damage. But at the center stood a war memorial. Tall, human-built, and recent. It was carved from dark alloy. Figure of a woman holding a torch. At the base were names, hundreds of them, all human. Vexel turned away. Record it. We move out. This colony is abandoned, but not for long. They'll be back. He was right. They were already watching. From high orbit, cloaked and silent, a ship hovered. Sleek, black. The Nightingale, flagship of Ghostwing 3. Admiral Rena Hale stood in silence, her eyes fixed on the enemy scout ship below. Her uniform was simple, black with a silver edge. Her hair was tied back. No medals, no rank pins. Ghostwing didn't care about tradition. They cared about survival. Rena had seen the fall of Earth. She had fought in orbit over Luna Station. She had watched her sister's ship explode on the second day of the war. The pain had never left her. But she had no time for grief. Not now. The humans were not extinct. They were scattered, angry, and learning. Ghostwings were humanity's secret answer to the Council's betrayal. Small, hidden fleets made of survivors, smugglers, old veterans, and AI-controlled ships. No bases, no homes, just targets. Every ghost wing moved in silence, struck in shadows, then vanished, and Rena Hale was one of the most feared commanders among them. She turned from the viewport and looked at her crew. "They're scouting," she said. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Oro, nodded. "They found the colony. They'll report back." "Should we engage?" Rena shook her head. "Not yet. Let them go. Let them believe we're still running." Ghost Wing 3 had been operating for 6 months. In that time, they had liberated 3 human outposts, destroyed 2 supply lines, and erased 4 enemy listening posts. Each strike was fast, precise, brutal. But today, something was different. Rena felt it, like a pull in her chest. Before the war, she and her sister Lena had been stationed together on the defense ring over Earth. They were both young officers, filled with hope. They believed the Council would protect peace. But peace was a lie. On the night Earth fell, Rena's ship had been ordered to retreat. She refused. She stayed in orbit, trying to cover the evacuation shuttles. Lena's ship, the Aspen, stayed with her. It was a hopeless fight. Thousands of Council warships darkened Earth's skies. Rena remembered the glow of the ocean catching fire, the moon breaking apart, the screams on the comms, and then Lena's voice. Calm, steady. "I'll hold them, Rena, go!" Rena tried to argue, but her ship was damaged, her engines dying. She had no choice. Lena's ship charged the enemy. It never came back. The memory haunted Rena every night. It drove her every day. And now, as she stood aboard Nightingale, she felt her sister watching. They couldn't bring Earth back, but they could make sure the enemy never slept easy again. An alert blinked on the screen. Oro turned. "Admiral, we have a signal. One of our scouts found something near the Turo belt." Rena stepped forward. "Put it up." The screen showed wreckage. An old human mining station, once taken by the Council and used as a fuel point. Now burning. Hull fragments floating in all directions, and among them, an enemy cruiser, ripped in half. "Who did this?" Oro asked. "Us," Rena replied. Ghost Wing 4 was operating nearby. "They're still out there." "But this looks fresh." "It is." A moment later, a second signal came through. Rena frowned. "What's that?" "Survivor beacon," said Oro. "From the cruiser." They pulled the message and played it. The voice was ragged, gurgling with static. "Alien, one of the Council's own. They're not fleeing." A loud explosion followed. "They're not running. They're hunting." The message cut off. Silence filled the bridge. Rena stood still, her fists tightening. Then she spoke, her voice cold. "Broadcast to all Ghost Wings. It's time." Oro looked up. "Time for what?" "To stop surviving," Rena said. "Time to strike back." Later that day, Ghost Wing 3 dropped into the shadows of another occupied system. A former human moon base turned into an enemy weapons depot. The strike was silent. No warning. Black ships swept through like knives in the dark. The base didn't last 10 minutes. Then they vanished again. The Council didn't understand. They thought humans were afraid, scattered, weak. They didn't see the pattern. Didn't realize the outposts were being taken back one by one, didn't notice their ships were going missing, didn't believe that humanity, broken and betrayed, could become ghosts in the dark. But the galaxy was about to learn. And Admiral, Rena Hale would make sure of it. She stood once more at the edge of her command deck. The stars stretched endlessly ahead. Somewhere out there, her sister's name was still burned into space debris over Earth. She would make them all remember. It, one by one, ship by ship, until even the council whispered in fear, because the humans weren't just surviving, they were hunting. The desert wind howled over the jagged ridges of the planet Serkai, lifting fine gray dust into the air. 3 resistance fighters moved through the canyons below, wrapped in cloaks to hide from the heat and scanners. Their boots crunched over brittle rock. Blaster rifles hung from their shoulders, but none of them dared make a sound. Something had drawn them here. Something old. The leader, Kaelven, raised a hand. His people had fought the council for decades. Small battles, hidden uprisings, slave revolts that were crushed again and again. They had no fleets, no homeworld, only memories of freedom and a burning hatred for those who took it. Now, word was spreading across the outer rim. Something was stirring. Ghost stories, human survivors, entire enemy patrols disappearing, and the mark of return, painted in red on shattered walls. Kaelven knelt near a pile of rocks. The scanner in his hand beeped softly. There was something underneath. He waved the others closer, and they began digging. Within minutes they uncovered metal, black, buried deep under centuries of sand and stone. A door. The youngest among them, a girl named Ariax, looked up, eyes wide. "What is this place?" she whispered. Kaelven stared at the door. Symbols were etched along its edges. Human writing. "This is from Earth," he said. He placed his hand on the door. It hissed. Lights flickered. The metal shifted and pulled inward, revealing a tunnel that led into the dark. Cold air rushed out, carrying the scent of oil and silence. They entered slowly, flashlights sweeping over ancient walls. The corridor led to a vast underground chamber, and what lay inside took their breath away. War machines. Hundreds of them. Dark gray battle. Tanks with mounted plasma turrets. Spider-like drones folded into crawl mode. Towering armored exosuits standing like statues. Each bore the same symbol burned into their hulls. A crimson triangle. The mark of return. These were built for war, Kaelven said, and they're still functional. As they stepped deeper inside, the lights above flickered to life, row by row. A low hum echoed through the walls. Something had woken up. Then, a voice spoke. Not from a speaker. From the air itself. "Human authorization missing," it said. "Command presence detected. Alien resistance confirmed." Kaelven raised his rifle. "Stand down," the voice continued. "You are not enemies. You are allies." A platform near the center rose from the floor. On it stood a humanoid. Machine, its eyes glowing dim red. It turned toward them slowly and spoke again, this time with purpose. "Are you ready to strike back?" Kaelven didn't answer. He didn't need to. The fire in his eyes said enough. That night, they activated. The facility, transmission towers blinked to life, sending coded pulses into the void. Old encryption keys from Earth's lost command structure. Keys only a few ships in the galaxy could read, and they read them. From across forgotten battlefields, hidden ghost wings and scattered survivors picked up the signals, coordinates, targets, allies. Humanity was no longer alone. They had friends in the ashes. In the days that followed, the resistance grew. On the prison moon of Cartel, human engineers and insectoid miners rebelled together, overwhelming their captors. On the floating city of Daresh, former mercenaries turned on their council employers, broadcasting the mark of return in flames across the sky. Rena Hale heard of it too. A council shipyard was ambushed by unknown vessels. No life forms detected, just AI-guided drones with human war banners painted in red. The enemy never stood a chance. Across the stars, the triangle mark was becoming legend. The council tried to cover it up, but whispers spread. Old enemies of Earth, long retired warlords, pirates and exiles found new purpose. Humanity, once betrayed by the very peace they tried to protect, now offered something else. Not peace, but vengeance. Some aliens joined for freedom, others joined for revenge, and some just wanted to see the council burn. Rena stood aboard Nightingale. As the reports came in, freedom cells uniting under a single signal, ancient allies reaching out from exile. She watched the holomap of known space shift, dot by dot, as red triangles lit up over enemy territory. She walked through the crew quarters later that evening. The old halls were quiet. Tired eyes followed her. Soldiers, pilots, medics, some barely old enough to remember Earth. She paused near a memorial wall. Her sister's name was etched there. Beside it, someone had drawn the symbol. Rena touched it briefly. "We're coming back," she whispered. Flashback. Years ago. Earth's skies were blue, and its cities filled with hope. Rena and Lena stood on a balcony overlooking the UN Space Council. "Do you think they'll listen?" Lena had asked. "They have. Too," Rena replied. "We offered peace. We shared everything, technology, medicine, even terraforming tools. But the Council didn't want peace. They wanted control. And when Earth refused to give up its sovereignty, they came with warships. Humanity had offered peace. And in return, they were given silence and flame. Now that flame was rising again, but not on Earth." In orbit around the capital world of Serac Prime, the Council's greatest shipyard stood like a crown of steel. Thousands of vessels were built. There, the core of the Council's fleet, and today, it burned. Explosions lit up the dark side of the planet. Entire spires crumbled as unseen weapons tore through hull and beam. Defense cannons failed to activate. Communications jammed. The few escape pods launched were never recovered. The Council scrambled to respond, but by the time reinforcements arrived, it was already over. Debris floated where once a superstructure had stretched for miles. Among the wreckage, a lone probe drifted, recording everything. It caught one image before being destroyed, a piece of steel, slowly spinning. On it, red paint, a triangle, the mark of return. The galactic news feed was cut mid-broadcast. A Varnathi diplomat had been speaking, calm words about restoring order and ending rebel threats. Then the screen cracked into chaos. Static tore through the signal. The diplomat's face melted into white noise. The sound shifted. Distorted voices, something like wind, then a scream that didn't sound human. Silence, then a voice, deep, clear, cold. "This message is from Earth." The transmission trembled across every channel, military frequencies, trade hubs, even children's holoprograms. "Your war ends now." All across the galaxy, that message played on loop. In the Jukar Belt, just outside Council space, a mining colony exploded, but no impact was recorded, no missile trails. The airlock doors simply opened. Hundreds of security bots deactivated at once. The command tower failed. Moments later, every Council officer aboard disappeared from bioscanners. Not dead, just gone. In Sector K9, a trade fleet was forced out of hyperspace. 6 warships dropped from nowhere. They surrounded the convoy without firing. One by one, they jammed engines, drained shields, and cut off escape vectors. When the convoy's admiral tried to send a distress signal, all her systems fried at once. Her ship powered down completely. A hologram appeared on her bridge. A symbol rotated in the air, a red triangle, sharp and steady. The voice returned. "Tell the Council, we are no longer running." On board the Nightingale, Admiral Rena Hale stood at the command table. Her eyes scanned the growing list of operations. Ghostwing Delta had just taken a weapons platform near the Kavar line. 2 days ago, That sector had been full of patrol ships and orbital guns. Now it was empty. She touched a command node. "Send the code." A secure channel opened. Her message was short, to every exiled captain still listening, to the ghosts still hiding in forgotten systems, to those who once flew under Earth's banner and were forced to scatter. "Come home. Mark your targets. We strike at dawn." Then she leaned back and let the storm begin. The Nightingale wasn't the only one hunting now. In the crimson clouds of Ordanis 6, human cruisers emerged from solar flares, ghosts wrapped in plasma shields and silence. They didn't speak. They didn't ask for surrender. They came, struck, and vanished before the enemy even understood they were at war. Old captains received her signal and answered in kind. From the frozen moons of Taris, Captain Lang awoke his ship's AI for the first time in 70 years. From the asteroid cities of Grivak, ex-Marine Talon Rise reactivated his unit, what remained of Earth's 77th Ghost Division. And from the quarantine zone around what was once Earth's refugee fleet, Commander Solari lifted the black flag again, the one banned by the Galactic Senate, the one marked with, but not everyone cheered. In a hidden system near the Veil Nebula, the Council met in secret. Leaders of species once proud and mighty now trembled in fear. They had killed Earth, or so they thought. "They're everywhere," one said. "They shouldn't have the strength. Our spies said they were broken." "They lied," another shouted. "They waited, hid in our shadows. Now they have allies, technology, tactics." The Supreme Archon leaned forward. "They have hate," he said. Far away, beyond sensor range, a black ship drifted, not fast, not loud, just present, impossible to see, impossible to hear, cloaked beyond detection. Inside it, nothing moved. No crew, just machines. A single AI ran the entire vessel, codename Paradox. It had waited for the right moment, watched, calculated, hunted. Now, its mission was clear. Around it, an alien fleet gathered, unaware of the danger sitting in the dark. Flagships powered up. Fighter swarms were launched. Anti-cloaking fields spun to life. Yet none of it mattered. Paradox had already marked them. Every reactor signature, every hull weakness, every escape vector. The AI spoke into the void. Targets marked. Countdown initiated. 3 seconds later, the fleet went dark. Not destroyed, disabled. Their navigation failed. Weapons refused to load. Life support went into lockdown. Pilots screamed into their comms, but no sound came out. Then, one by one, ships began to drift. No weapons had been fired, no hulls pierced, yet the fleet was lost. The Council recovered one black box from the wreckage hours later. Only one image was stored, a single symbol on every display. Back aboard the Nightingale, Rena stood in silence. Her crew watched the live feed from the supercarrier's operation. No casualties, no alarms, just precision. Her fingers hovered over the control panel. A red triangle blinked on screen. Another success. Another message sent. She thought back to a time before this war, when humanity still believed in peace. Back then, they had opened their arms to the galaxy, offered technology, medicine, sanctuary. They built schools for alien children, sent relief ships to famine worlds, even shared warp tech the Council had hoarded for centuries. And when they asked for nothing in return, only respect, they were laughed at, mocked, then betrayed. The treaty summit turned into an ambush. Council assassins struck the delegation. Warships struck Earth. Billions died. That memory burned in Rena's heart like fire. She turned to her command crew. "Begin Phase 2, she said. Across the galaxy, more messages played. Some whispered, some shouted, but they all ended the same way. This message is from Earth. We remember and we are not alone. The Council war chamber echoed with laughter. General Korex of the Varnathi Empire leaned back in his throne of steel and bone. his armor gleaming under the cold lights. Around him, officers from across the galaxy watched the news feeds. Clips of human ships retreating, colonies burning, Earth itself reduced to a smoking ruin. This is their resistance? He sneered. Scattered fleets, desperate raids, primitive tactics. No one challenged him. They all believed the same. But the next morning, something changed. The starbase at Rhythis Prime sent a distress signal. Then it went silent. 30 minutes. Later, the communication tower at Juno Fold stopped transmitting. Then Varnathi Outpost 9, then Sector Gate Delta. Within one night, 17 frontier stations went dark, not destroyed, just gone. No debris, no signals, no survivors. General Corex stared at the black screens, his laughter gone. A low growl rose in his throat. What happened? He demanded. No one could answer. Across the stars, Operation Burnback had begun. Humanity wasn't fighting a war the old way. No massive fleets, no endless ground battles. They weren't trying to win territory. They were cutting the routes. Fuel depots were drained without a trace. Automated AI cores controlling defense networks were infected, corrupted, then turned against their own. Secret Council black sites vanished overnight. Staff evacuated, computers erased, buildings disassembled down to the foundations. Gone, as if they had never existed. Admiral Rena Hale stood in front of a holographic map deep inside the Nightingale's command center. Red circles marked each new disruption. 3 more bases this cycle, her officer reported. She nodded. Keep the pace. No targets survive. No pattern revealed. A young technician raised a hand. Ma'am, they're starting to panic. On screen, a council broadcast played on repeat. Rumors flew that humans had new weapons, new allies, maybe even control of gravity itself. But none of it was true. The truth was simpler, and worse. They had prepared. Years before the war, Earth knew this was coming. In a hidden chamber beneath the Arctic ice, a council of human leaders once sat in silence, listening to a warning from Earth's most powerful AI, Tethys. They will strike first, it said, but they will not strike last. Even while the galaxy smiled and signed, peace treaties, Earth built escape plans, not just bunkers and warships, but data caches, ghost codes, sabotage units. They mapped council supply routes, fuel chains, communication hubs. They trained operatives not to fight in battles, but to erase them before they began. Operation Burnback was never about revenge. It was about survival by precision. And now, it was working. Council fleets began to collapse from within. Starcruisers couldn't refuel, stations couldn't repair. AI support systems ran in circles, trapped in logic loops. Worlds that once glowed, with power dimmed, falling into silence one by one. General Corex slammed his fist into the command table. Find the source. He roared. Scouts were sent. Most never returned. One did, but the pilot arrived in a life pod, screaming and shaking. When questioned, he said only one thing. I saw them. Humans. But they weren't soldiers. They were everywhere. They were shadows. Rena watched the feeds with no satisfaction. Each success was just one step closer to justice. She stood alone in her quarters that night, holding an old photo, one taken before the fall of Earth. It showed a classroom, children laughing. Her niece was among them. They were all gone now, burned in the council's first wave. She closed her eyes. This was not revenge. This was the correction of history. Back in council space, General Corex began to understand too late. He sent a fleet to protect his homeworld, Varnax, his capital, his fortress world. He called in favors, ordered shield walls doubled, deployed every available drone. He thought he had time, he didn't. The first sign was silence. Every planetary comm relay shut off. Not jammed, turned off from the inside. Then the orbital defense rings powered down, then the power grid, then the lights. From orbit, His world looked like a black marble, no cities glowing, no ships flying. And then came the final insult. On top of the Capitol Tower, where the Varnathi flag once flew, now waved another, black and red, a human flag. With it stood 6 figures, not soldiers, survivors, children who had lived through Earth's destruction, now grown, now returned. A message played over the dead world. To the General of Silence, it said, "This is what you gave us. We now return it." Korex screamed in rage and disbelief. His officers watched in horror. One whispered, "We've already lost, haven't we?" The general said nothing, because deep down, he knew this was no longer a war. It was a burnback, and Earth had just begun. Stars blinked in the silent dark above Sector 17. Patrols from the Council drifted along expected paths, bored and unaware. This was a quiet sector. No major stations, no active war zones, just open space and routine. Then the stars moved. No alarms triggered, no scanners beeped, but the stars began to vanish, one by one. A young Council pilot stared at his screen in confusion. "Sir, I think the stars are—" Before he could finish, his ship went dark. All across the patrol, engines failed, lights dimmed, weapons went offline. They never even saw what hit them. From the void, shapes emerged. Black ships. Scarred hulls, engines so quiet they left no heat trail. They looked like ghosts. Ancient, forgotten. Some even had hull markings from the first invasion, back when Earth still stood proud under open skies. They were the dead fleet, a long-lost armada, once thought destroyed in humanity's final defense. But they had never been destroyed. They had vanished, on purpose. Their captain, Commander Voss, stood on the bridge of the Vindicator. His face was older now, one eye replaced with an artificial lens. Scars crossed his jawline. His voice was a whisper, but held the weight of war. "We came back," he said. "Not for glory, not for revenge. We came back for those who couldn't. The dead fleet was built for one purpose, survival in the shadows. When Earth fell, these ships didn't go down with it. They ran deep, into dark space, into the broken, zones where light didn't reach and scanners couldn't see. They waited, rebuilt, upgraded. They became something new. Humanity had evolved its war machines. These weren't the bulky cruisers of Earth's past. The dead fleet used stealth armor, grown from alien materials, AI pilots that learned in silence for decades. Weapons that didn't fire until they were already through the hull, and now they had returned. The Council command scrambled to understand what was happening. Dozens of patrols were lost. Outposts went offline, no messages, no wreckage, just silence. Single fragment of audio was recovered from one of the last destroyed stations. It was a voice, human, calm. "We see you now." Admiral Rena Hale watched the incoming data streams aboard the Nightingale. Her officers stood silent, unsure what to make of it. One of them whispered, "Is it real? That fleet, it shouldn't exist." Rena didn't answer right away. She stared at the images of old ship IDs, the Horizon's Flame, the Kota's Pride, the Arclight. All once declared lost. But here they were. She took a deep breath. "Signal them. Secure channel." It took hours, but finally the signal connected. Voss appeared on the main screen lit by dim red lights. "You're still alive," she said. "Barely," he replied. "But we're not just alive. We're ready." The dead fleet merged with the human offensive. It was more than just numbers. It was a message to the galaxy, to the Council, to every race that thought Earth was gone. It meant Earth's spirit had never died. That even in the blackest night, humans had kept the fire alive. Council systems struggled to respond. Their fleets were designed for open battle, not ghosts. Where human ships appeared, Council installations vanished. Where dead. Fleet AI moved, enemy computers failed. Where human agents walked, Rebellions sparked behind enemy lines. It was no longer just a war. It was a collapse. On the ice planet Akaros 5, a council technician found a message carved into the hull of a downed human dropship. Return is not revenge. It is reckoning. As battles spread, rumors filled the stars. Stories of ships with no crew that spoke in human voices, of council captains hearing their own AI whisper, "I remember Earth." Of prisoners rescued from black sites by shadows who left behind a single mark, the mark of return. And then, the humans did something unthinkable. They didn't just destroy a military target. They captured it. The Council's main communication station, Citadel Echo, was thought untouchable. Guarded by 3 fleets, shielded, hidden behind a nebula, but it fell in 20 minutes. How? No one truly knew. Some said the dead fleet had already been inside, waiting. Others believed Earth had built something worse, a weapon made not to destroy matter, but information. The moment Citadel Echo went dark, every screen in the known galaxy flickered. Civilian feeds, military networks, even private channels static, then screaming, then silence, then a voice, clear, calm, human. "This message is from Earth." Rena's voice carried on every frequency. "We offered peace. You answered with fire. You called us extinct. You were wrong." Another voice joined hers. "Voss, for every child lost. For every city turned to ash. For every lie in your history books." The signal ended with one final line. "From today, Earth speaks." And across the stars, people listened. On conquered worlds, enslaved races wept. Hope returned to eyes that had forgotten it. In council chambers, leaders panicked. They had believed the war already won. But now they faced something older, stronger, relentless. Not an army, a storm. The dead fleet, once buried by history, had risen. And with them, all of Earth's fury. Stars blinked in the silent dark above Sector 17. Patrols from the Council drifted along expected paths, bored and unaware. This was a quiet sector, no major stations, no active war zones, just open space and routine. Then the stars moved. No alarms triggered. No scanners beeped, but the stars began to vanish one by one. A young council pilot stared at his screen in confusion. "Sir, I think the stars are—" Before he could finish, his ship went dark. All across the patrol, engines failed, lights dimmed, weapons went offline. They never even saw what hit them. From the void, shapes emerged, black ships, scarred hulls, engines so quiet they left no heat trail. They looked like ghosts, ancient, forgotten. Some even had hull markings from the first invasion, back when Earth still stood proud under open skies. They were the dead fleet, a long-lost armada, once thought destroyed in humanity's final defense. But they had never been destroyed. They had vanished, on purpose. Their captain, Commander Voss, stood on the bridge of the Vindicator. His face was older now, one eye replaced with an artificial lens. Scars crossed his jawline. His voice was a whisper, but held the weight of war. "We came back," he said. "Not for glory, not for revenge. We came back for those who couldn't." The dead fleet was built for one purpose: survival in the shadows. When Earth fell, these ships didn't go down with it. They ran deep, into dark space, into the broken zones where light didn't reach and scanners couldn't see. They waited, rebuilt, upgraded. They became something new. Humanity had evolved its war machines. These weren't the bulky cruisers of Earth's past. The dead fleet used stealth armor, grown from alien materials, AI pilots that learned in silence for decades, weapons that didn't fire until they were already through the hull. And now they had returned. The Council Command scrambled to understand what was happening. Dozens of patrols were lost. Outposts went offline. No messages, no wreckage, just silence. Single fragment of audio was recovered from one of the last destroyed stations. It was a voice, human, calm. "We see you now." Admiral Rena Hale watched the incoming data streams aboard the Nightingale. Her officers stood silent, unsure what to make of it. One of them whispered, "Is it real? That fleet, it shouldn't exist." Rena didn't answer right away. She stared at the images of old ship IDs, the Horizon's Flame, the Coda's Pride, the Arclight. All once declared lost, but here they were. She took a deep breath. "Signal them. Secure channel." It took hours, but finally the signal connected. Voss appeared on the main screen, lit by dim red lights. "You're still alive," she said. "Barely," he replied. "But we're not just alive. We're ready." The dead fleet merged with the human offensive. It was more than just numbers. It was a message to the galaxy, to the Council, to every race that thought Earth was gone. It meant Earth's spirit had never died. That even in the blackest night, humans had kept the fire alive. Council systems struggled to respond. Their fleets were designed for open battle, not ghosts. Where human ships appeared, Council installations vanished, where dead. Fleet AI moved, enemy computers failed. Where human agents walked, rebellions sparked behind enemy lines. It was no longer just a war. It was a collapse. On the ice planet Akaros 5, a Council technician found a message carved into the hull of a downed human dropship. "Return is not revenge. It is reckoning." As battles spread, rumors filled the stars. Stories of ships with no crew that spoke in human voices, of Council captains hearing their own AI whisper, "I remember Earth." Of prisoners rescued from black sites by shadows who left behind a single mark, the mark of return. And then, the humans did something unthinkable. They didn't just destroy a military target, they captured it. The Council's main communication station, Citadel Echo, was thought untouchable. Guarded by 3 fleets, shielded, hidden behind a nebula, but it fell in 20 minutes. How? No one truly knew. Some said the dead fleet had already been inside, waiting. Others believed Earth had built something worse, a weapon made not to destroy. Matter, but information. The moment Citadel Echo went dark, every screen in the known galaxy flickered. Civilian feeds, military networks, even private channels, static, then screaming, then silence, then a voice, clear, calm, human. "This message is from Earth." Rena's voice carried on every frequency. "We offered peace. You answered with fire. You called us extinct. You were wrong." Another voice joined hers. "Voss, for every child lost, for every city turned to ash, for every lie in your history books." The signal ended with one final line, "From today, Earth speaks." And across the stars people listened. On conquered worlds, enslaved races wept. Hope returned to eyes that had forgotten it. In council chambers, leaders panicked. They had believed the war already won, but now they faced something older, stronger, relentless. Not an army, a storm. The dead fleet, once buried by history, had risen, and with them all of Earth's fury. The stars above the Council's capital world dimmed under the shadows of Earth's warships. Giant vessels moved into orbit, slow, heavy, silent. They didn't fire. They didn't speak. They simply waited. Inside the council chamber, panic settled. Like dust on every table, delegates shouted. Some wept. Others simply stared at the live feed showing Earth's flag fluttering above the city's highest tower. It wasn't just a threat. It was a reminder. Earth had returned, not as a broken world, but as a force none of them could stop. The council sent envoys. Small white ships launched, glowing with peace symbols. No weapons, no shields. Just diplomats in robes and fear behind their eyes. They flew toward the flagship, hovering in the sky, the Nightingale. Inside, Admiral Rena Hale watched them approach. Her crew waited in silence. No one celebrated. No one smiled. Rena stood with her hands behind her back. Her uniform was worn, patched in places. A single red stripe ran across her shoulder, the mark of Earth's last defenders. A comms officer spoke. "Peace envoys, Admiral. They're requesting an audience." Rena didn't answer at first. She stared at the screen as the envoy ships docked. Her voice was low. "Peace? After all this?" She remembered the burning of Earth, the broken families, the screams that never faded, the betrayal, the lies, the day they stood before the council offering peace and were met with silence, followed by fire. She walked to the docking bay. The envoy stepped forward, hands raised. Their leader, a thin figure with silver skin and tired eyes, bowed low. "We come to ask for peace," he said. "The war must end." Rena didn't move. "You ended it when you started it. This is..." "Justice!" the envoy begged. "We surrender. We will disband the council military. We will pay reparations. Just, please stop the attacks." Behind her, one of her captains, a man from the dead fleet, stepped forward. His face was half machine, half scar. He said, "We warned you, again and again. You called us savages. Now you kneel." But Rena raised a hand, stopping him. "We won't become them," she said. The final battle still raged across distant systems. Human ships disabled fleets, not destroyed them. AI systems shut down planetary defenses. Stealth teams moved in, capturing leaders, freeing prisoners, taking control without leaving ruin. In one system, a planet once used as a slave world by the Council now flew the red and silver flag of Earth. The people there, aliens who once feared humans, gathered in the streets and cheered. Some painted the symbol on their walls, the mark of return. To them, Earth wasn't a conqueror. It was a savior. In another region, rebels who once fought against humanity now begged to join the new order. "Let us fight with you," they pleaded. "We see now. We were lied to." Rena had expected hatred. Instead, she found respect. And something stranger, hope. The humans gave their final warning to all systems: surrender or vanish. No more half measures, no more debates. But what followed wasn't more death. It was something the galaxy didn't expect. Order. On the last day of the war, Earth's fleet arrived at the Council Core, the seat of galactic power. Not a single shot was fired. The Council had already evacuated. Their buildings stood empty, their banners torn down. Human officers walked through those halls. They didn't burn them. They rewrote them. New laws were written, clear, unbreakable. No war could be started without Earth's approval. No species could be enslaved again. All voices, human or not, would be heard. And the Council? It didn't end in fire. It ended in silence. Humanity didn't destroy it. They became it. A new age began, not ruled by fear but by memory. Pain taught humans a lesson that power alone could never bring peace. Justice did. On a quiet balcony overlooking the stars, Rena stood alone. A young alien child approached her, holding a small flag with Earth's symbol. "Are you going home now?" the child asked. Rena looked out at the stars. "No," she said. "Home comes with us now." Later, on every world once touched by war, a message played. Not a threat, not a speech, just a line. They thought it was just about survival. It never was. It was about justice,